Yes, man! What the Rock is cooking.
And what you gonna do, Macho Man, when the whole world full of Hulkamaniacs destroy you? Because everyone loves the Acclaim! Now scissor me, Daddy! Oh, there it is!
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
But I'm better than you.
And you know it!
For a second, I hate Skype so much.
I know. Well, maybe one day I'll be a big girl and I'll pay for Zoom like Rob does, but
It's $15 a month. Come on.
that's American. You know how much that is Canadian?
That's $500 a month in Canadian.
And Australian, it's even worse because their dollar's worse than ours, but I didn't even think was possible. So
And we are recording.
awesome. You can keep that on there. Welcome to the second episode of the Friday Nightmares One Night Stand. You up? Luckily for me, these three gentlemen obviously had a good enough time the first time, and they came back again, or they're desperate. We don't really know which one it's going to be. And we're going to be talking about all things WWE, AEW, story development, which is going to be Tim's favorite part. I think I said gullible wrestle fans or toxicity of wrestling fans and whatever else comes up. So if you listen to our episode back in November, we all shared our thoughts on AEW, WWE. So we're going to touch base and update on that. And we have a couple of special topics because one of our hosts has a very awesome wrestling show that he does single. And now he gets to have a foursome. So it's very exciting. But I will let my co-host introduce himself before we get to those two.
Hello, everybody. It's Mr. Smoke Show Crawford here, standing in the squared circle once again. We are here for, say, a good rematch, because I am a one-time champion of Dummies of Wrestling. And with me is two other men that have held the belt way more than I have. And I am coming for that belt, boys. You wait. I've turned heel. Scott Housen has become the evil Housen, and he's going to kick some ass, boys. So, Heather, let's welcome in our guests.
Oh my God. You know, it's true. Rob, did Tim actually really hold a belt? It was between him and Daniel. That doesn't really count. We'll get to him in a second. But let's introduce the real former champion on this podcast, which is Rob Humphrey from This Horror Life and Slasher Radio. He's back again. Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you know, just better that you're here now.
I'm sure. Brightens your day. Thank you for having me back. And yeah, I held onto that belt when it was created for nearly a year. I think it was like 10 months or something.
Yes,
and,
you're the real champ.
I haven't been able to touch the damn thing since.
Well, it's nice that you've given, the right Davis brother the opportunity to be a champion. The one that treats women with respect and is just an overall good guy. I just actually want to take a second before we get to our next guest to thank Zachary Davis for being such an amazing champion. We are so lucky to have you. And Scott and I look forward to supporting you as time goes on. But you wouldn't have a show without a heel. And this gentleman is my biggest heel. He just doesn't like me. And I just don't understand why. I'm nothing but nice to him. But he's referred to me as that bitch, which has been very catching. So much so I had to introduce that as myself to his brother when I messaged him on Facebook, just to make sure he knew which Heather we were talking about. But he is truly the one, the only, the very talented, the very knowledgeable Tim Davis. Hi, Tim.
Oh, thank you for that introduction, you bitch. I appreciate it. What is up, Friday Nightmares podcast? Hey, just quickly. Friday Nightmares, acknowledge me. I am here to give you guys a lesson in professional wrestling because some of you Some of you, starting with a certain name, Heather, don't understand how wrestling works and how wrestling can be entertaining. Not singling out anyone, but yeah.
I'm sorry, your mic must have been off. All I heard was Zachary Davis is the real champ. I will never be as good as my little brother. You know, it must have been hard, your parents waiting 10 years to have perfection after such a disappointment at him.
It's actually opposite way. They had perfection first, and then they thought, oh, maybe we could strike lightning in a bottle twice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, no.
I get that. My parents were disappointed once, and that was enough. They didn't even bother to try again. But as always, thank you for being here, Tim. It's such a pleasure. We don't get to podcast with you often. We always have to work these time zones out, but I think we really nailed it today. It's a good time for you. It's a good time for us, right? So I'm really.
It's a good time for me, babe.
It's always a good time for Scott. And Rob, Rob just hopefully shows up when we tell him to show up. Which
it's never a good time for me.
Never a good time for Rob. So this time I'm sober. Last time we recorded, I had like an entire bottle of wine.
Same.
Which, yeah, this time I have not. So it should be, I don't know if it'll be any different. But I guess we'll start off before Tim gets to teach me about wrestling, even though I've been watching it longer than he has, which should be interesting. And also TNA and other wrestling divisions that he hasn't watched because he lives in Australia. He can't really watch a lot. Is AEW coming to Australia yet? No, like, and I'm not being like facetious. I'm saying like, have they talked about anything coming out your way? No.
No. We're like the last on the map. They're like America, Canada, Europe, Czechoslovakia, Jakarta. And then down the list is like, yeah. Oh, maybe we'll go to Australia.
I did see that WWE was scheduling some live events in Australia, Tim.
So they used to come to us like yearly, back before the pandemic, and I used to go every single time they came out. And they haven't been for a couple of years, probably because of COVID and all that stuff. But I don't know if I'd go again because. It's just, well, we'll talk about it later, but yeah, WWE just isn't the product that it used to be for me. So.
Yeah, I've heard your voice, your heartbreak when one change happened in one of your episodes where you talked about somebody returning. I could hear your pain through the recording, Tim, and I think we all felt your pain. But I'm gonna go with Rob first, only because I went with you first last time, and I think you covered so much that other people didn't get a chance to. So yeah, I'm gonna go over to Rob.
I think that's her way of saying you talk too much, Tim.
You know what, guys? You guys don't realize this. Tim and I pretend to not like each other, but we're secretly together.
Love it.
And we're gonna fuck you guys up. We're gonna have a big change.
So Tim, you're cheating on me with that bitch.
Hey,
you went first.
First of all, he went up. That's what happened. Just so we're clear, he went up.
Wait, shouldn't he be going down?
So let's get to Rob's thoughts on WWE. Rob, since we last spoke, what do you think has gotten better? What do you think's gotten worse? Or do you just not care at all about WWE?
So my thoughts really haven't changed all that much on WWE. It's still not. I don't watch the weekly product. I don't watch SmackDown. I don't watch Raw. I do still watch all the pay-per-views. I think the storyline with the Bloodline has gotten more interesting. I think they did some interesting things there with Sami Zayn and stuff. That seems like it's going to be wrapping up at WrestleMania, though. And outside of that, I don't think I'm interested in anything else that they're doing.
Fair enough.
The biggest thing for me since the last time we recorded is I've started to notice that I'm much less interested in wrestling overall. Like, not just WWE, but even AEW. I'm just not, I don't get all that excited about it anymore. Like, I used to look forward to Wednesdays and sitting down and watching Dynamite. Now it's kind of like, all right, it's on. So I don't know if that's a reflection of the product or just me. So
would you say it's because you listen to Tim's podcast and he stole all the joy from liking wrestling?
No,
I'm just kidding.
I enjoy Tim's podcast. I think it's incredible that Tim can do a solo podcast. Like, I can't imagine.
For sure.
I mean, I did the call-in thing on Tim's show where I had to record it by myself, and I rambled on for 15 minutes about Crocodile Dundee.
I found out what you did on your holidays. You went into great detail of what you ate. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if I could do a show by myself or not. Tim keeps it. Tim manages to keep it on point. If I did a show by myself, it would be all over the fucking map.
Same.
Yeah. No, I think Tim does a good job. I don't think he steals the joy, Heather.
I'm just being funny. I don't think Tim steals the joy.
He just likes to have story. He wants to know he likes the emotional impact.
He wants to know in Cocaine Bear, how did the bear become addicted to cocaine? Where did the problem start? Was it in the bear's childhood?
The problem started when Jim was at the bar staring at the bear.
Hey, the bears are staring at him. I'd be staring at him too. Fuck, I'd break me off a piece of that shit. Gladly. No, Tim has an excellent podcast. I am literally just kidding because I look forward to every episode that he drops. But I agree with you, Rob. But I find I go through seasons with wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I go through time where I'm really into it and times that I pull away from it. And I don't know if I'm just on that roller coaster right now.
Yeah. Well, I think also, I don't know that AEW is doing anything really super compelling.
Yeah.
And
that's a good.
I mean, the best storyline in professional wrestling right now is the Bloodline. And that's wrapping up. It's like they've already kind of paid that off with the match between Roman and Sami Zayn, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not, there's nothing really pulling me in from either company really, but I do still watch Dynamite weekly.
Do you watch Rampage or?
No, I haven't watched Rampage in forever. AEW will be better when Punk comes back.
Well, I guess we might as well move into talking about AEW. Oh my god, the fucking hamburger chain in Canada. Anyway, AEW. Do you want to add some stuff on that? You kind of already mentioned you're kind of not as interested. How do you feel? Like, do you feel like the matches, the storylines, or where there is storyline is maybe missing, or do you agree with him?
It's just right now. I just think that they don't have anything compelling going on. I mean,
yeah.
When you look at their major stories in AEW, MJF is the champion, which is great. He should be the champion. He should be the face of that company. But they're not giving him anything really. I'm not interested in watching him and Darby Allin wrestle. I just don't care. When I looked at, we watch, we have that little chat group where we talk about Dynamite. And when the 4 quote unquote pillars of AEW were in the ring on Wednesday, I was like, none of these guys are in MJF's class to me.
Yeah, that whole thing got me really excited.
If they do if they lead to like a fatal 4-way match, maybe that'll be interesting. But if they're going to pair him off against Darby or against Sammy or against
Jungle
Boy, none of that's interesting to me because none of those 3 could possibly beat MJF for that title at this point. They're just not in his class.
I hear you. And I honestly don't no one thought that he was going to lose at Revolution, right? Like, no one actually.
Really compelling because it was Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
I
get what you're saying.
When you look at the rest of the company, I mean, they've got that thing with the women where there's like some of them are the outsiders against the originals or whatever. That whole thing to me is just played out and boring. I don't care. They haven't done enough to develop any of those women as, outside of Britt Baker as being a massive talent for the company.
You don't think Jamie Hayter's been developed? She gets a big pop.
She does, but I feel like I don't know how long that's going to last.
Okay. You feel like it's a flash in the pan kind of thing, right? Yeah. It's not a long burn. Okay.
Yeah, and then it's like Hangman Adam Page used to get huge pops when he was chasing Kenny too, but after he won the title, nobody gave a shit about him anymore.
Well, then they kind of turned on him, right?
Yeah.
Like, he kind of got booed.
Yeah.
Bedazzle is what you refer to him as, which always kills me every single time.
His bedazzled outfit.
His bedazzled outfits.
Yeah. And he's got, and now that they're pushing the storyline between him and Mox, which has just gone on and on and on, which is one thing that AEW is horrible about. They let these feuds and these storylines run on for way too long. And then outside of that, I don't even know what else they're doing. Like we've got Jade Cargill. She's still the champion. She's the only person who's ever been the TBS champion. It's so boring. There's just not a whole lot of interesting happening.
Yeah, that's valid. And if it's not working for you, like Scott will talk about his interest. I did enjoy that dialogue. I do like Darby Allin, but I completely hear what you're saying. I don't think any of those guys are going to take the championship off MJF. Like, MJF is going to be champion for at least a year. Like, he ain't going anywhere. He's the fucking money cow. That's not changing. So, but I'm interested to hear Scotty's thoughts on WWE. If you want to do that first, Scotty. And then AEW. What's gotten better? What's not gotten better?
Yeah, so just to give it a little bit of insight, I don't watch anything WWE really. Like I pay attention obviously to Tim's podcast. I've been watching a lot of the YouTube channel What Culture and their ups and downs videos, and I pretty much watch that after every single episode of Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, ROH, and Rampage. And that way I get an idea, storyline, what's going on, what matches have happened, what feuds are being built from everything. Just because, now that we're doing this show, like when we can, I like to have at least a little more knowledge on some of the products that I don't pay attention to. And yeah, from what it's seeming like, WWE has just kind of stayed about the same. Like since last time we talked, we were hoping for some big changes with Triple H in charge, but unfortunately, the name of Vince McMahon seems to have reappeared and has maybe gotten himself involved again more than we want him to be involved, which might have slowed down the momentum that Triple H was building towards. Because, the Bloodline and Sami Zayn storyline has been definitely one of the better things that's been going on in wrestling. Because it's very fascinating where that has went from, and watching the ups and downs videos, finding out that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have hugged it out and are now on a team together because Cody Rhodes kind of pushed Kevin Owens to, make amends with Sami. And looks like Kevin Owens and Sami are going to take on the Bloodline, come WrestleMania. So, that story is building. And then there seems to be a story going on with Dominic Mysterio and his father, Rey Mysterio. And, this whole thing, it sounds like Dominic's basically just being a whiny little bitch saying, "Oh, Daddy wasn't around for me. He was always wrestling and not paying attention to me. So I'm so mad and I'm going to be an angsty gothic teen." And that storyline just has nothing. It's just, ugh. And what the fuck? They were building this up so strongly, but what the fuck happened to Bray Wyatt? They have done nothing.
Yeah, hashtag big question, huh? Hashtag
he's
big
done.
question.
The whole world was excited when he came back, and he has done nothing since he returned. He had that weird glow in the dark match or whatever the fuck it was at the Royal Rumble, but I mean, he's done nothing.
Yeah, there was I think that was his only match he's had so far too. And then I hear something about he may be out now because of injury or something like that. I'm going, how the fuck did he get injured? He hasn't even wrestled. So I don't even know what's going on there. If that could be, a whole kayfabe story going on there too. Who knows? They might be taking some cues from AEW, because AEW does tend to run with the kayfabe still, or at least play into real things that have happened. I mean, so WWE just really hasn't done anything to entice me back in. I'll continue watching these videos just to see if there's anything to build up for, but I could give a rat's ass less about Roman Reigns and fucking Cody Rhodes fight coming up at WrestleMania. The whole, like you said, Bloodline versus Sami Zayn and now Kevin Owens. That's the only exciting thing going on. There's nothing really else. Though I did hear Trish Stratus is back. Which, that's cool. But I don't know what they're going to really do much with her. Who knows?
Well, she's wrestling at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'll say, isn't she with Becky Lynch or against Becky Lynch or something like that?
No, she's with Becky Lynch and Lita against Damage Control.
Damage Control.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that's the one thing where everyone's always everyone's always saying oh, AEW doesn't have much story. There isn't much in WWE either, people. Just to let you know.
That was a dig at Tim. That came from Scott, Tim.
I'm talking the WWE fucking marks that I see on all these AEW Facebook pages that are constantly bashing AEW. And speaking of AEW, I'll get into my thoughts there too. I kind of like the direction they're going now, because they are finally doing kind of what we talked about on the last episode we did of this, where they're focusing on more of the talent that isn't utilized nearly as much. We're starting to see Dark Order on Dynamite a lot more, which is cool. We're starting to, the Gun Club has the fucking titles somehow, some way, and they're being utilized now. And, there's this whole interesting story. I know Rob's not a fan of it, but I'm definitely intrigued on this whole pillars of AEW against MJF wanting their title shot. Because, we all know that MJF's going to win against whoever out of those four he faces, but it'll be a good pop for them to finally give them their chance at the title. And yeah, like FTR coming back, another big success there. And I mean, one thing, obviously there is the women's division that's finally, I think, starting to pick up at least storyline steam, thanks to them adding Ruby Soho to Saraya and Toni Storm, because I did like what Ruby came out and said, basically. We're doing this because all you freaking fans just booed us when we got defeated by like Britt Baker or Jamie Hayter and this and that, and shows that you all are just a bunch of marks for the originals. I'm going, okay, you're building up a little more story there. I just wish they would kind of do something more with it. I'm hoping this is just kind of a slow build to something bigger. Like we start getting more other talents joining on each side because of Rampage, Riho got beat up by Toni Storm and Saraya and had the L sprayed on her. So on last Dynamite, Riho and fucking Willow Nightingale came out to save Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter, and it looks like those four may be like kind of teaming up now against the Outcasts. Which, I like this. Like, it's building up something, and hell, who knows? This could be a blood and guts match down, like, by the time summer comes.
Yeah, good point.
Because they haven't done a women's blood and guts match, so it'd be kind of an interesting take on it.
There's blood in AEW?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you think Tony Khan's going to give the women an hour on television?
I mean, that's a good point. But maybe they'll do a double blood and guts thing. Maybe they'll be like a men's blood and guts and a women's blood and guts going that same night instead of like the random matches that they had in the last couple of blood and guts. Who knows? Because it looks like there could be also Blackpool Combat Club and Adam Page, Dark Order, and Omega, Young Bucks combination thing. Yeah. Like all of them, like that could be a blood and guts match as well. Though I really don't want to see Blackpool Combat Club in another blood and guts match because we know Mox is just going to cover the freaking floor in blood of his own. I'm liking where AEW is going because they are taking chances, not focusing nearly as much on their big, like their ex-WWE talent that they do have. They're going for the people they have built up in their own promotion, and they are kind of building more of a bond with New Japan. They're doing that with AAA, and they're doing that with TNA a little bit too, I think. And they're just like,
are they doing it with TNA? I was looking at the TNA roster to see if I knew anyone. Spoiler, I knew like 3 wrestlers that wrestle there right now.
Yeah, I might be wrong on TNA, but I know the AAA one, they have a guy facing up against Kenny Omega this Dynamite.
Nice.
Coming over from there to face Kenny Omega. Like, no, obviously, this is where they kind of suffer. Sometimes they just, I wouldn't even say suffer. This is where storyline-wise, sometimes they don't have a story. Sometimes they just throw something together, but I don't mind because it's good matches. Usually when it's just something like that, it's just thrown together, like, it's going to be entertaining. But Jade Cargill's run, fucking just end it. End it now. Hell, if I have to watch another Jade Cargill match, end me. Because I am so over these squash matches.
I have to believe they're waiting on Chris Statlander to come back for that.
That's what
You don't think this Canadian chick is going to be
Taya Valkyrie?
the new? Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I was shocked that she was in Canada, so of course she got the pop that she did, and she's from the West Coast. But like,
I think she's from Impact as well, so she's really well known there, and got underutilized in the WWE's little side.
Oh, shock faint.
Right. But I don't know what they're going to do with Taya Valkyrie, but I agree. I think they're waiting on Chris Statlander to heal, but they need to do something quick because Jade is just I can't imagine that brings any ratings. That's got to drop ratings just seeing Jade on the cards of anything because it's just, oh no, giant woman comes out. Match over in 10 seconds. I didn't even have a chance to finish going to the bathroom before the match was over.
Or whack off if you're Rob.
Right.
I always got time for that. But I really felt like back at All Out they should have had Athena beat Jade and end it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that
would have been great.
Apparently the plan going into the pay-per-view was for Statlander to beat her there.
Yeah.
And then Statlander got hurt and they replaced her with Athena in the match. They should have just had her win. Well, because this Jade thing has gone on too long and it's boring.
And I think the reason being that Athena did not win is because Athena is now women's champion in ROH. And I think they had that planned all along because, as another thing that we were talking about on the show, they finally got rid of a lot of these extra ROH titles in AEW and finally gave ROH its own platform, which is every Thursday. Yeah, and also, just this makes me so damn happy, but to see Mark Briscoe being part of AEW now, like, sad that it had to happen because his brother died, but I'm glad to see him getting more of a push now too. And
Absolutely.
That's just kind of trying to think of anything I could recap from last episode, or last time we did this, that there was anything changed. But yeah, there's been a lot where WWE seems to be staying the same. AEW seems to have changed a lot. Whether it's for the better or not, it all depends on opinion.
Absolutely. And we got the two most vocal people left that just hate each other, that need to give their opinions. I'm going to go first, only because Tim is very, very good at articulating himself, and he's a great show, and he's going to have lots to add. And I just want, you do, Tim. We just tease each other. But I want to give some quick overviews. One, what the fuck is Cody Rhodes doing in WrestleMania? Can someone please answer that to me? I honestly, I'm not a hater of Cody Rhodes by any stance. I like Dustin, his brother, a hell of a lot more, but Cody Rhodes is fine. I swear to God, I don't know what deal he made with WWE, but if he wins that belt at WrestleMania, I will be fucking shocked, because he is not champion material at WWE. Honestly, I didn't see that coming. And I agree with some points that Tim made on his podcast. I think they really dropped the ball with the Sami Zayn. I think they should have carried that into WrestleMania. But that being said, I have watched WWE SmackDown recently, a couple times at the bar, which is the best way to watch it because you can drink and talk to people when you're bored. But it wasn't that bad. But for me with WWE, what it always comes back to, and this is just a feelings thing, it feels like a fucking cartoon show. I feel like I'm watching a family-friendly version, and that's fine. I understand that that's the realm they've gone now. And I don't mind the Dominic thing and this Gunter guy, and, it's entertaining enough, but it just doesn't pull me in. AEW continues to pull me in. I do continue to look forward to Dynamite. No, if I have to do something a Wednesday night, I record it and watch it later. But there's something about it that I still care about. I love Dante Martin. As far as I'm fucking concerned, him and his brother are the future. And this is where story development doesn't matter as much for me as it does for Tim, which is absolutely fine. Every wrestling fan is different. I can watch talented guys like the Lucha Brothers and Dante Martin and his brother get into the ring together. I don't even care about a fucking backstory. Just give me those four guys wrestling for fucking 30 minutes and I'll be entertained, because they have the talent in the ring to carry that match. I agree with Tim's points when it comes to story development if they don't have a strong enough talent to carry the match, or it's going to be a long, ongoing rivalry, because when they do storytelling good, they do it good. I am pretty sure in the next 6 months we will see Jamie Hayter or Britt Baker turn on Jamie Hayter. It will be because they did that thing where they made up, and I think they're going to do this whole thing when they're fighting against the outsiders, and Britt's going to turn, and it's going to push Jamie Hayter even further into being hopefully a superstar, like Rob said, so she doesn't burn out. I do think back in the day when they did that rivalry between Hangman and Kenny, where they were coming out as a tag team, and you could see they were falling apart each week, and they had that going on and on. That was a great storyline. But there are things that they just kind of throw together at the last minute. I would love for someone to explain to me how Wardlow won and lost the belts in a week.
Yeah.
The Hobbs. Honestly. I remember being like, what? Is this just AEW showing me that anything can happen, or is this just really poor writing? I'm not quite sure.
It's QT Marshall.
Oh, yes. Who the fuck is QT Marshall, by the way? Does anyone know who he is?
He's been around for a while in AEW, but he's usually a jobber, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's been around wrestling for a long time. He does a lot of work with the guys backstage. Like, he does a lot of the training and stuff with guys. And he worked with Cody Rhodes at the Nightmare Factory. And he does a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And then AEW seems to bring him, and he's always with some sort of faction. and he brings them in when they want to try to heat people up or something, or they just like when I was at All Out a couple of years ago, they did a match between him and Big Show, that was like the worst match on the card, because who gives a shit about either one of them at this point. But he's a heat magnet, though. I will give him that. Like every time I've seen AEW live, he usually has like a match on Dark or something. They do those tapings before the Dynamite starts, and he just draws a ton of heat from the crowd.
Nice.
He's very good at his role. He knows what his role is, and he's very good at it. I wish he would get the hell away from Will Hobbs, though, because he's like a poison pill, it seems like, for people's careers. And I don't want him to ruin Hobbs.
Yeah, like the whole skit they had on the last AEW, it was like 2001 called and they want their writing back. Like it was fucking ridiculous. Like, AEW, what I like about them is they don't do that cheesy shit. That's a WWE thing from before, where they would do this cheesy shit. And I like how AEW does more of the focus on the interviews before the match, the confrontations backstage. I enjoyed MJF birthday party thing. And yes, Jungle Boy isn't the best on the mic, but Darby Allin, like him or not, Rob, he got the pop from the fans. And though Rob did make me laugh when he said his film was so bad he must have wrote Skinamarink, which is why he got kicked out of film school. Was pretty funny.
I think the fans like him because they know they could kick his ass if they had to.
And that may be the case, but I do find AEW constantly entertaining. I love Ricky Starks. I loved how MJF elevated him, and that whole rivalry elevated him. Do I think there's room for improvement? Of course there is. But generally speaking, I am going to be on Ticketmaster at 10 a.m. this Friday to buy my motherfucking tickets to see Dynamite when it comes 20 minutes away from my house. And I will pay whatever I need to get ringside tickets.
You're not going to the pay-per-view?
No, I'm not going to go to the pay-per-view when this other one's 20 minutes from my house and I drink and take a cab there.
Those
and they
pay-per-views
drunk at the venue.
So much fun, though.
I know, but eventually I'll go. They'll come back to Toronto. They're going to sell that pay-per-view out like that. So they're going to be coming here all the time.
It's Forbidden Door, so you'll get to watch AEW guys fight a bunch of Japanese guys you never heard of.
Well, no, I'll just watch whatever Scott tells me to beforehand. But I am enjoying AEW. I think no matter what, and the last point I'll make, no one actually really cares about women's wrestling. And I say this pretty confidently. There's been peaks in history where people did. I would like to say Trish Stratus was one of them. Chyna was one of them. But now I honestly don't know if there is a storyline they could do to get people to really care. Like, I think Britt Baker's over enough. Jamie Hayter's over enough. And like, that's good enough. I just don't know if they want to put their energy into that. And I say this as a woman, but there's a lot of dudes that watch wrestling. And I understand that the gentleman that I'm on here with right now enjoy the ladies' matches for multiple reasons, but do enjoy the talent. But not all dudes are like that. And it's mostly guys that go to wrestling events. And I just don't know. I just don't know if we've reached the point where they respect women wrestling as much as they should. And maybe I'm wrong. But I just don't know if it's ever going to be what we want it to be, because I don't know if the fans will let it be. One of the biggest problems with wrestling is wrestling fans. And I will say this till the day I die. I will say this till the day I die. It is okay to have different opinions, absolutely. But there is toxic fandom out there. When an AEW wrestler has to delete her Twitter because she's being threatened, people need to give themselves a fucking head shake. This is entertainment. And like, that's what I'm talking about with toxic fandom, not me and Tim, who sometimes disagree. Now, Tim, tell us how we're all wrong, and each match needs a 4-hour storyline. I'm just kidding, Tim, but tell us what you think.
I'm not going to tell you're wrong. In fact, why don't you just copy and paste Scott and Rob, and that will be me, because I agree with everything that they said.
Not with what I said?
We'll get to you later. No, honestly. Honestly, no, you were right. I will discuss story later, but let's go with WWE first. Yeah, they need work. Both promotions do. They really do. WWE, I'm with you, Heather. It is a cartoon show now. Much like Rob, Rob and Scott and yourself, Heather, I haven't watched a Raw or a SmackDown since 2014, besides the other week. I think it was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that I watched about an hour of Raw, because I can now, Australia have made it accessible for us to now watch it live. Fucking finally. And I watched an hour of Raw, and it was back when Seth Rollins came out and his big ass red clown shoes. And I watched that part and I'm like, what has happened? What has happened to WWE? Like the last time I watched was when The Rock defeated CM Punk for the title. And although that at that point that was a bad booking decision to have The Rock be the one to dethrone CM Punk, I was still invested into it. And now coming today, you've got Seth Rollins, who does nothing but with his big ass gross teeth, and he's wearing clown shoes, and then the Miz just goes, "What are those?" It's like, you fucking like, majority of your fans are not fucking 9-year-old kids, right? It's honestly like they cater for one person, like the children, and they forget about everyone else. And this is WWE's biggest problem. And I think I probably said it on the last time we recorded that WWE is way too bright. It's way too commercialized. It's way too mainstream. That's what I don't like. And that's what I do like about AEW is that it feels still underground. You have to be a fan to appreciate it. And that's what I do like about AEW. Going into WrestleMania this year, there are rivalries that I am invested for. The Bloodline, the whole, actually Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Heather, I agree 100% with you with Cody Rhodes.
How did he get there, Tim? How the fuck did he get to WrestleMania?
I have said, you can go back on my show, Dummies for Wrestling, and you can go back and listen. I have said all along that Cody Rhodes, to me, is nothing more than a mid-carder. That's all I see him as. That's all I ever will see him as. And I actually think that he's going to lose at Mania.
Fuck, I hope so.
I do too. The reason being is because they mentioned that in May, Roman Reigns is 1,000 days as champion. Why would they mention that if he was going to lose at Mania? But that rivalry still, I'm invested because who knows? Everyone's saying that Cody's going to walk away with the titles, but I'm here thinking maybe he won't. And I would fucking love it if Roman walked away with the championship because you watch all the marks cry. Dominic versus Rey Mysterio. This is a match that I've heard online that people are just butchering, just saying, "Oh, it's shit. Dominic Mysterio's shit." And I was once that person. Now, as I will still say that Dominic Mysterio needs work in doing promos, but as a heel, he's doing a fucking good job because he's got so much heat behind him. It's great. And that match there, we all know what's going to happen. Rey Mysterio is going to break and then say, "That's it, you and me, WrestleMania." It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But that's a match that I'm invested on. There's other matches that I do not give a fuck about. Rob, what's funny?
I'm sorry. Scott's cat was really distracting me. How long is that cat going to be perched on the back of that chair?
Right? Better writing than some of the shit in WWE. Rob was more interested in Scott's cat.
Let's have Scott's cat versus fucking Rhea Ripley instead of Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley.
I would be more invested in that than I am Omos versus Brock Lesnar.
Okay. Here's this match here. Omos versus Brock Lesnar. I'm actually... It's kind of like when Donald Trump was running for president. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see how fucked up this can be. It's kind of the same thing. Omos versus Brock Lesnar. It's going to be horrible. But I'm kind of there. I want to see how bad it's going to be. What's the other match that really did nothing? Oh, that's right.
The other woman's one? The Raw one? Yeah.
Bianca Belair versus Asuka. Like,
with her hair?
Yeah, okay. It's funny because as a performer, Bianca Belair is fucking flawless. Yes. She is so good. Yes. But as a character, I could give a shit less. She is boring as fuck. I prefer watching Jade Cargill than Bianca Belair as a character.
Wow. Oh, man, that's saying something.
As a character, not a performer. Yeah. But yeah, WWE, they just don't cater to us anymore. It's the kids show where AEW caters to the real wrestling fan, if you want to call it. And to
ask you a question though, Tim, about that.
Yeah.
Don't you think there is a lot of young wrestling fans though? Like when I used to go as a kid to wrestling matches, I remember it was all kids. And I remember like the merch, like money is in the kids, right? Do you think that maybe that's why that's the market? They're like, fuck this. AEW wants to be gory, bloody. We're going to be PG and we're going to get them kiddies to watch and it's going to be safe for the whole family. Do you think that's their train of thought, maybe?
Probably. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you go back to when we were kids, right? Back when I was a kid, it was the Attitude Era. I was watching WCW Nitro at the time with the NWO. But back then it was edgy, like Stone Cold flipping off people. You had like girls living up the top. Like I'm a fucking 12-year-old kid, and that shit is like, holy crap, this is nuts. You go nowadays, 12-year-old kids are watching people come out in clown shoes going, like, that's not fun.
See, that's where the 5-year age gap between you and I make a difference, right? So I was watching that shit. Hulk Hogan, the good guy, Ultimate Warrior, the good guy, PC. It became edgy when I was a teenager. Well, I was 5 years older than you, right? So I was like 17. So I get what you're saying. We're experiencing it from two different eyes, right? I'm going back in time to when it was like, take your vitamins, say your prayers, and you're like middle finger dropping F-bombs, drinking beers, right? Like very different experience as two young people watching wrestling. That's interesting.
And I think
I'm 100 years older than all of you. So.
He was around when wrestling was invented.
I remember when TV came on and I could watch it at home. I was like, oh.
I also think, WWE caters towards the more family-friendly audience, but they also cater to their investors. They want to make sure their investors and stockholders are happy. That is their number one thing.
Yeah.
Good point.
Where AEW, like when MJF yelled out, "You fucking mark" to Tony Khan, like it's stuff like that where you're like, oh shit, was that part of the show or did MJF go off script? You don't know, and no one will ever know. There's all speculation that he got fined and all that stuff, but who really knows? No one really knows unless you're in the business, and that's what makes AEW a better product, because there's so much more realism and a blur of reality compared to WWE.
Yeah,
and WWE, like Robin Scott said it perfectly. The Bloodline story is great, but at the same time, it is getting a tad bit predictable, especially with the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos. We all knew that they were going to team up. I just kind of wish that they threw a curveball or something like that. Gunther versus Drew and Sheamus. We all knew it was going to be a triple threat. They let it go for a while, and then everyone predicted, it's a triple threat. Cool. We knew it was going to happen. Throw a curveball or something like that. Make it interesting, That's my thoughts on WWE at the moment. AEW. Before Revolution, the pay-per-view, I was struggling to really get invested in the pay-per-view as a whole. There was matches that I was excited for. The Iron Man match, obviously. I was keen for Moxley versus Hangman Page. There were other matches I was interested in. For example, the Elite versus the House of Black, that I knew was going to be a great match. It's just I feel like they rushed into that way too quickly. But now, after Revolution is said and done, that pay-per-view is fucking great from start to finish, almost. Now I'm a little more invested in AEW, and I'm finding this to be an actual thing with AEW and me, is that they'll do a crazy, insane, great pay-per-view, and then it will get me invested into the product, and then it will kind of die down until the next pay-per-view, and it will start all over again. I
think what it is with them, where WWE ends storylines with pay-per-views, it's almost as if AEW starts storylines with their pay-per-views.
Yeah, or continues them.
Yeah, or continues them. And sometimes you don't know when it's going to end, like John Moxley and Hangman Page. Exactly. I feel like my Tim's son will be 50 watching the two of them fight still, honestly.
I mean, we have the same thoughts about JAS and the Blackpool Combat Club, too. That went on forever.
Oh, yeah.
Be careful. Don't say it too many times. It might come back again.
Yeah, that Moxley Hangman thing, how they didn't blow that off after a Texas death match, I don't know. Yeah. Like, to keep it going is ridiculous. Because what are they going to do next? We're going to have another exploding barbed wire death match now? I mean, come on. Just
God, no. I don't know. They'll make their own version of Hell in a Cell or something like that.
Yeah.
It's Cell in a Hell or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they let stuff go on for too long. With their pay-per-views.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I feel that there's good things happening in AEW. The pillars the other day that happened with MJF and the other three. I thought that promo was fucking great. I loved it. I loved it how MJF called Sammy Guevara the in 7 months I'll propose to a new girl, Guevara. That was great. There's so many hits that happened that I thought were great. And look, everyone's speculating that it's going to be a fatal 4-way, and I hope it is. But then I was listening to another podcast, and they said, what if it's MJF versus Jungle Boy, and then after that's done, he's versus Sammy Guevara, and then that's done versus Darby. And I'm like, I don't like that. That's way too drawn out. Just do a fatal 4-way. It will be a great match. Get it done. There's things like that I'm invested in. But then there's things like fucking Will Hobbs, and the TNT title that it's like, what goes through your head with booking? You had Wardlow beating Samoa Joe only to lose. Like, what goes through your head? Where's Wardlow now? Wardlow's now, once again, been pushed down to dark. I don't know. Where has he been?
Is he hurt? Is he hurt?
It's only been one episode so far that he hasn't been around, so.
I know, but
he was hurt.
I mean, maybe he could be, but then when he comes back, what's he going to do? Feud with Hobbs again? Like, it's a rivalry we've kind of done with. And what? It wouldn't surprise me if Wardlow comes back, takes the title of Hobbs, and they just go back and forth. That's not good writing to me.
I mean,
that's lazy.
Maybe Wardlow will set his sights on the belt, the MJF's title. See,
that's the thing, because Wardlow, I could see a guy being the one to take it from MJF.
Mm-hmm.
Now. I'm thinking 2024.
Okay, yeah. When he builds up a little bit more, is what you're thinking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The problem
I don't see MJF
is,
the title.
Yeah.
The problem is that relies on AEW knowing how to properly build somebody, and they just don't. I mean, when we talk about Wardlow, that guy, after he squashed MJF at Double or Nothing, he was white hot. And they put the TNT title on him and then did nothing.
Yeah.
Just absolutely. And he cooled off so much that at this point, when Wardlow comes on, I'm like, who gives a shit? I mean,
he still gets a huge pop, though.
But Wardlow isn't that great. I'm just going to, someone like Ricky Stark. Let's look at where Ricky Stark was 6 months ago and where he is now. He comes out, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Right.
You know who I want to see live? Him.
Yeah. But
I want to see him, right? Oh,
how
for
long
a while.
before
He's going to ride a long time.
How long before they fucking just send him home and don't use him anymore? I mean, Miro was the hottest thing in the company for a minute. Where's he been? Nobody even knows what the fuck.
Well,
I don't think that will happen with Ricky.
I think with Miro, there must be something going on backstage where...
Yeah, I think he's kind of a dick, actually.
Disputes. Well, who knows? Who knows? It could be Tony Khan being the dick. No one knows.
Yeah,
that's
true.
the thing.
Good point.
There was rumors. Yeah,
we see him do that all the time, though. Time and time again, they heat these guys up, and then they don't use them anymore. They just disappear. And so then when they do bring them back, it's like starting all over. Nobody cares.
Exactly. And it's the same with, they'll build them up so much that they'll win the title and then they'll just plateau. Perfect example is Hangman Page. Yes. When he won the title, he did nothing with it. It was a boring champion, and I couldn't wait for him to lose.
Well, the thing with Hangman Page is, I think the money with Hangman Page is in the chase, right? The compelling thing with Hangman Page is that he's the guy chasing the title. And you always want to see him win it. And then when he does, it's kind of like, okay, his story's done now. And you're just waiting for him to drop it again. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Dusty Rhodes made an entire fucking legendary career out of just being the guy who was chasing the title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me, because with people like Wardlow and Hangman and stuff like that, it makes me wonder because like you said, building up to that chase, they're great at the chase. But I think their characters, in-ring characters with their personalities, they have a hard time setting up feuds for people like that. They just they don't have that charisma or the aggression like someone like MJF or Moxley did, or Omega. Every one of those, everybody's matches holding the title belt of them have been great so far. And I think it's just because, I think it's just they're having a hard time figuring out who to place against Hangman to build up a story to make a good rivalry. Same with Wardlow. That, I think it's their personality. Just it's hard to find someone to be the exact opposite of that.
You have to have charisma either in your body language or on the mic. That is how you survive in wrestling. You don't have to be that fucking good. You just have to be able to come down and sell your image. And Wardlow, I'm sorry, he's a dime a dozen. I think he's great. That's great. But he's nothing special. Another big guy will come along and do exactly what he does unless there's something else he can offer. They're always like Ricky Stark isn't the most talented wrestler in the world. The guy can deliver a promo, and he's only going to get fucking better, and he's only going to get more impressive, right? So it's that to me is what makes it, right? Like that's what sets them apart from being what you said it perfectly. Cody Rhodes being a mid-carder, because let's be real, he's not great at either one. He's running a lot on his family name. Let's call a spade, right? So like and that's fine. I'd run on my family fucking name too if I was a Rhodes. Of course I would. Right. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's just my thought. Rob, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just talking about Wardlow. You know, unfortunately for him, he's in AEW and they don't know how to book big men. I mean, look at all of the big men they've had in that company. They've never known what to do with any of them. It's not just Wardlow. It's Brian Cage. It's Lance Archer. It's,
Big Bill.
Big Bill. Good example.
Yeah. They don't know how to book these guys. And so they end up just kind of doing nothing with them. I mean, Brian Cage sat home for God knows how long where they didn't use him at all. And then for some reason, his contract was ready to expire and Tony Khan renewed it, which made no sense to me.
Well, I think he renewed it to get him because he's featured on Ring of Honor quite a bit now.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I don't watch that.
Because he's one of the champions, isn't he?
Yes.
Get a real TV deal and then I'll watch you.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, Tim, about AEW and thoughts you had on where it's at now?
Not real. I think we'll go into it the longer we talk, but at the moment, no.
Okay. So we'll move into, I think we're at a perfect place to move into story development. So I know this has been something that I've teased him quite about, indicating that he needs a Lifetime film for every single match that exists. And I'll be very clear. Story development isn't huge for me, never has, never will be. I can go and watch two dudes fight, and if they're talented in the ring, I don't fucking care. I don't need a story to be invested. Now, that's me, right? Mm-hmm. So, by no stance, Tim has made it very clear, and I think that this came out a lot with the most recent women's thing in AEW, right? That's where we started it.
That's right, yes.
Right? Do you want to talk about, like, I don't know where you want to start off with your thoughts on story development, if you want to start with that example, or...
Look, okay, the thing about stories, and you and me have gone back and forth on our chat that no one will see except the four of us. For me personally, every match, no matter what it is, every match has a story. And you can go into the psychology of the actual match itself, but even just story-wise of two wrestlers fighting or two teams fighting, there's a story there. They're battling for supremacy. They're battling for rankings. That's a story, right? Then you've got other stories. Let's go back in time to some of the greatest stories. For example, Austin versus Vince McMahon. Now, imagine if that story, everyone knows that story, right?
Yeah, of course.
Austin versus McMahon. It was one of the best of all time. That whole rivalry was fucking great. Imagine if they just randomly said, Stone Cold's going to be fighting Vince McMahon tonight on Raw. People would be like, what? What the fuck? There's been no build-up. There's been no explanation. There's been no reasoning as to why they're fighting. That's exactly what happened with Saraya and Toni Storm and the others. We had Saraya return, come back, do a few things with Britt Baker, and then next week, she's just fuck you to the fans? What?
Well, no, that isn't what happened, Tim. What happened was there was the three ladies. There was what was the other lady that's not there anymore? Thank you. So the three of them were talking about who was going to face. You saw the slight heel turn when Saraya went on and on about Toni Storm and blew off the other chick. That was story. Like any wrestling fan would know that was the starting of a heel turn because they said this chick isn't good enough, right? And no, we're going to do it. So there was something. It just wasn't as strong as it could have been, right? It should have been, what you're saying is it should have been more than that. Yes. That wasn't enough. Yeah.
Do you know what would have helped build that story? Because right now, the story of these women, I'm so much more invested into it now than when it started because all I needed was a fucking line of dialogue. One line. That's all I needed. We are teaming up because blah, 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 blah. Now they've done that. Now I'm like, all right, cool. This is good. Let's get invested. And I think that this whole takeover, I love a takeover story, man. NWO was my fucking jam. But I think that if they continue with it, it could be something great and actually bring purpose to the women's division that is quite honestly, really needed at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they need to grow their little stable. Hey, I've got an idea. Bring in Athena. She was an ex-WWE person. She has been treated wrong, the same as the others. She'd be perfect fit for it. There's rumors.
And Athena is heel now on Ring of Honor.
Exactly. It's
So it
a
works.
perfect fit. Other options, a lot of people are saying the Bellas, which God don't, please.
Oh my God.
Or Bode. Bode is what they could bring in.
Her. Mandy Rose is another name they could bring in.
And I believe isn't Mandy Rose on Ring of Honor now, I think, too?
No, she hasn't been seen since being
okay.
released. But that whole story could be great, but they just started it really poorly. They did. And another story that was pretty much the same was, and I know Heather's going to disagree with me, was the Elite versus House of Black. And the reason that I got annoyed with that is...
Why would you think I would disagree with you?
Because there was no story.
Oh, I
their
just don't like
match
the
at
House of
Revelation.
Black.
Sorry.
Oh, I just don't like the House of Black. I just don't like the House of Black.
Yeah.
No, I don't care for them.
She's
she's great.
objectively
It's not my
wrong
thing.
about this.
They're just not my thing. I
They're
get that
the
people
most
like them.
horror.
That's
the most
okay.
horror.
I don't find them anything special. I think it's been there, done that. Personally, for me,
Heather and I
like,
have had
hey,
this discussion back and
they
forth
they
so many
sell
times.
themselves to the crowd. But the difference between me and other wrestling fans is this: I can sit back and say, "Hey, it's not for me," but you know what? It puts bums in seats. Fucking rock on. Like I
Yeah,
don't have
see.
to like every single fucking match. I don't.
You're not
Be
a fucking
entertained.
mark.
I'm, I guess not. Like I just look at it like it's not for me. I wasn't invested in that match anyway, no matter what the storyline would have been. To be honest, like I could care less. But
Okay.
yeah. So like, anyway, Kari, continue.
So the thing about that is like, so House of Black to me, I fucking love House of Black. I mean, Buddy Matthews is great, and that's not just because he's Australian. I'm not rooting for my hometown boy, but I just love Buddy.
No,
Matthews.
you don't like the Aussie boys. I remember they came out a couple weeks ago, and I messaged you. Like, who
Aussie
the fuck
Open.
are these guys?
Aussie Open. Fuck them.
Yeah.
I know they're good and everyone likes them. I don't care.
And they are awesome.
But back when the trio titles were announced, the first thing that came to my mind is, the Elite versus House of Black.
Mhm.
That's going to be a fucking great program. And they kind of wasted it. Like those two teams were and it wasn't just me. I was listening to other podcasts where people were saying those two teams could have torn the house down with a story, with these titles. They could have done a program for months and months and months, much like the Death Triangle versus the Elite. And it was just announced randomly. It's like, oh, we're just going to shoehorn this match into the card. Where you go. You happy? And it's like, no, I'm not. Because there could have been something more to it. They could have developed. A slow burn means everything in professional wrestling.
You know what, Tim? You're gonna plot twist. You're right. They knew
Wow.
they had that. They knew they had that Winnipeg match. And let me tell you, fucking Canadians. It doesn't matter if the wrestler's a fucking heel. I saw Edge when he was at the height of his heel. We almost tore the fucking ACC down when he came out to beat John Cena. And he fucking lost. And people still stayed around giving him a standing ovation. Canadians suck the dick of any Canadian superstar that shows up. They should have started. They knew they were coming to Manitoba and Winnipeg. Kenny is from Winnipeg. They should have fucking built that shit up for weeks. I agree with you. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, like,
Thank
I
you.
figured what was going to
You're
happen was
welcome.
going to be, what I thought was going to happen was going to be like what happened with Death Triangle and the Elite, which was, they started the story at the pay-per-view and just kind of built it up after that. But no, they're going House of Black and JAS, which is weird. Because I was like, I did
It's
not.
gonna be super weird. Not
I was
gonna
gonna
lie,
say,
that's a
like-
super weird mix.
I was going to say, because JAS is not a trio team. It's a whole freaking faction. But, because, even, like, just this last Rampage, Daniel Garcia versus Brody King was a thing. And then fucking Jericho came out and used Floyd the Bat on fucking Brody King, knocked him out, and Garcia won it. So, like, this is going to be an ongoing feud between House of Black and JAS now, which I'm going, this should have been the Elite in House of Black. How did JAS get involved? Like, this is
But
I'm not going to argue.
Kenny Omega and Adam Page getting back together in the bromance.
Exactly.
Right.
There's another story going there, it looks like.
Right.
Yeah, but that's another story that, and I'm not shitting on it yet, but you have the Elite with Hangman Page. Let's just call him the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club. Is Bryan Danielson going to come back and join them? Because
No, he's sad. He had to go home and he's sad, Tim.
is he even in the Blackpool Combat Club anymore? He hasn't been seen with them for fucking months.
Yeah,
With
I'm not even
Daniel-
sure. He kind of went on his own.
Yeah, I forgot that he was in there.
Yeah,
'Cause he kind of went on his own after William Regal was taken out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
when Regal left, they should have just disbanded that whole thing because it
Yeah.
doesn't work anymore. It's not. He was
Not even for
he was the
Blackpool.
one who put it together. It was his
Mhm.
thing, and now he's gone, and Danielson's just off doing his own thing, and you got Mox and Yuta running around, and
Mm-hmm.
Now they're heels.
Who are
audio
heels
coming out
now?
with this terrible music.
Well, that's the thing. Like, are Blackpool Combat Club heels? Because yes, they're portrayed as heels, but
They're heels now because in ROH they're building the story there too, and Wheeler Yuta's cheating in his pure ROH championship now, where he's throwing a closed fist punch where that gets you disqualified, like behind refs' backs and stuff like that. Claudio is
no.
coming out and
that's not
helping.
honor.
Yeah, exactly. And then Claudio's been a lot more vicious and mean spirited, like in his matches. So
So
they're
John's-
And John's not letting go of the hold when the referee says so.
exactly.
He's never been done before. I'm sorry, that shit is so fucking boring. Like I'm
Right.
like drained.
Thank God they got that pure title off AEW. There is nothing that was more boring in the world than those stupid pure matches. My God.
Humphrey
Yeah.
doesn't like anything
So-
pure. That's why.
So sorry. So you're saying, Scott, that basically for us to understand the story in AEW, we need to watch Ring of Honor.
It's kind of
Yes.
seeming that way, yes.
That's shit.
Yeah,
Because
no,
they're-
I don't think so. They make it pretty clear. Mox holds on to holds longer than he should, and they
Made it clear that they're heels.
and they
but-
beat people up in AEW. It's just shitty. It's a storyline. It's just boring.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
continuing into the other promotions, like because Mox isn't in ROH at all. So it's just since Claudio and Wheeler, that is where they hold their belts. Of course, they are bringing their characters from AEW's heel turn over to that now as well. It's just you don't have to watch that, but it just kind of adds to it.
Well, it makes it complimentary, which is smart on Tony Khan's part, right?
Yes.
Like he's trying
Gets
to make
people
you
to
watch
watch both.
both, right? You know what
Mhm.
storyline shouldn't have ended? Ricky Stark and MJF. I know I keep going back to that, but that was
Yeah.
why did
Well,
did that end? Why not have
you
another
know-
match?
You know
they're
how I
trying to
said,
build Ricky
Wardlow-
Starks.
Yeah, you know how I said Wardlow could be the one to dethrone MJF? I also think Ricky Starks
Mhm.
could be also another contender to dethrone. I think that story is going to do a whole 360 and come back
I
around
hope
to
so.
I think it will too. They can't, but they couldn't keep it going because they're not going to take the title off MJF.
No.
No.
So he's just going to, and how many times can we watch Ricky Starks lose to him before we're like, all right, this guy sucks.
Good point. Good
So
point,
let's,
Rob.
yeah,
Good
that's
point.
why they gave him Jericho. They were like, go fight Jericho.
Jericho's so
Which-
good at putting people over. Like
Oh, he
that
is.
is what a fucking CM Punk should be.
I mean,
it's
look
a
at
shame that
Action
he's not
Jackson.
good as
He
Jericho.
learned, Jericho learned a lot from Punk, and they were in the locker room together. Yeah. Learned about putting other people over and
Absolutely.
helping out the younger talent. Yeah.
I mean, look what it did for Action Jackson.
Action
That
Jackson.
guy.
Yeah, that's
God.
me and Rob's nickname for Action
Yeah.
Andretti.
That guy, he needs a new name. You can't call yourself
It's
Action
so
Andretti
bad.
and expect me
Yeah.
not to call you Action Jackson. And now I
Sounds like
just
an action figure.
Scott and I joked about it so much that now I just call him that.
Yeah.
It's just- yeah, that's his name to me.
That's fucking great. Now I'm going to
Now-
call him that now.
A
People are gonna know
storyline
I'm
that got
saying-
screwed up, Tim. I want to hear your opinions on this. So,
Yeah.
do you remember the Jungle Boy and Christian storyline? Right? It was
Yeah.
really hot, and then Christian got hurt.
Yeah.
And they had to side set. Do you think there's any way? Because that really took the steam out of it. Let's be real. Like
did.
it was building, and you can't help if a guy gets hurt, especially when you have these older wrestlers. We all know as you get older, like fuck, I hurt my neck sleeping last night. I'm turning 40. That's why Rob's not interested in me. He wants young 20-year-olds, not old 40 bitches that hurt their neck sleeping. But like
20? That's way too old.
that's way too old for Rob.
Yeah, my
like,
hip
how-
hurts, and I don't know if I slept funny on it or if it's going to rain. I have no idea.
But like Tim, first story, like how do you deal with that? Like how would you deal with that as a writer? You're building up the storyline, your buddy gets hurt, the guy gets
Mhm.
hurt. What do you do? Do you think there's any solution or no?
It's a hard question because one, I didn't know how long. I can't remember how long Christian was actually.
It was a
out
while,
for.
wasn't it?
Let's say it was 3 months.
Okay.
It
Let's-
was.
let's
They were
say.
supposed to have their first. That match was supposed to be at All Out, and that was in September, and that was when they came out and
Yeah.
Luchasaurus
So 6
attacked Jungle
months.
Boy, and they did the squash.
Yep.
Mm.
What I think, Look, I'm not a writer, obviously, but what I think would have been cool was you had that match between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, right? And then that was it. They kind of stopped the rivalry. But why did that have to stop? Now, maybe there was, I heard that there was a problem with Luchasaurus's masks, and they were going through the whole court case or anything like that about it.
About that too.
So maybe that's a reason, but let's just take that off the table and say that's not a reason at the moment. Why don't we have Luchasaurus continue his beatdown on Jungle Boy, but Christian's injured. Yeah, he can't go in the ring. He can still come out and cut a promo. He can still shoot videos and have it screen up on the Titantron. Let's slowly build that build up more and more and more over the course of 3 months. Some people might say, that's way too long. That's way too rushed. But the way they did it was to just completely stop the rivalry. And then a week, maybe 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, Christian returns.
Yeah.
I think it would be better for a slower build. Because the one-off match between Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, it was kind of like, is that it? Luchasaurus has been dominant for weeks now, and you're going to have him lose once, and he's gone.
Yeah. The split between those two could have made for a better story, and it could have given Jungle Boy something to do and kept him on TV until Christian was ready to come back. The storyline went on much longer than it should have. But I understand because he got hurt. I didn't have a problem with them doing the match and wrapping it up at Revolution. It looks like, and hopefully this is the end of that now, and we're going to move on to something else.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think because what I think they could have done, because like you were saying, the story had lost steam because of Christian's injury. Either kept the feud going with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus in one way or another, or when Christian came back, have the feud restart, being rekindled, and build up towards Double or Nothing, not up that Revolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Let it burn a little bit, simmer a little more.
Yeah, simmer, yeah.
Kind of reignite it, basically.
100%.
I'm going to read a quote from Tony Khan. Now, we all know Tony Khan. And I just Googled...
Tony Khan.
Tony Blocana. How many writers work for AEW? Because there's tons of writers in WWE. And it just came up with this one quote. And Tony Khan says AEW doesn't need writers because he works with the top talent. So they write for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Does this sound like hashtag Circa Circa WCW, anybody?
It's a bad idea.
Right out of my mouth.
I understand the impulse to do it, and I understand why the talent would love that. But I think that sometimes it just doesn't work. You don't need a whole team of people like WWE has to get involved because their stuff is too scripted and boring for the most part because of it. But you need some people there to work with these guys.
Look at it this way. Us four right now are talking about storylines and how things could go. This would be a perfect example. I'm not saying that we should be writers for AEW. I'm not.
I am Tony Khan. $500,000.
Tony Khan.
You got me.
And blow.
But 4 people.
I assume there's plenty of that around.
Pay me in blow. But have 4 people who are passionate, who know everything, who know the history of wrestling, who know the rivalries from the fucking 50s all the way to now. Have 4 writers just in a room. That's their job. Their job is every day. They come together. They're like, how are we going to get this person over? How are we going to do this? Tony Khan can come and say, we can't do this because blah, blah, blah is injured. This court case is going on. We can't do that. But have 4 writers. Yeah, that's all you need. You don't need to...
And then get the talent involved. Don't have them create their storyline, but have them input.
Exactly.
Well, or you have talent that you can here's the reality. There's people that can freestyle.
Yes.
And there's people that should never be allowed to touch the mic. Exactly. That when they get on the mic, we're all like, oh God, please stop. And not everybody gets everything. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, going back to what you said about WCW, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was watching old school WCW a year ago before the network was taken down. And the one thing that I noticed that WCW did a lot was every time they'd have Mean Gene would come out for an interview, with someone after the ring, after the match, the wrestler would continue to talk, and Mean Gene was there trying to pull the microphone back, going, "Oh, we're out of time." But then, especially Ric Flair, he was the worst for it. He used to just keep grabbing the microphone and talking, and then they'd have to cut to commercial, but Ric Flair's still talking. It's like the wrestlers didn't care about the cues. They didn't care about the time slots, anything like that. And yeah, you were right. Like going to like the early 2000s of WCW, it was a circus. It was a madhouse. Fucking you had Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash running the show. Of course, they're putting themselves over. Finger Poke of Doom was the perfect example.
Mhm.
It was these things that really ruined WCW, and look what it led to. Is that what's
Right.
going to happen to AEW?
And that's the thing. I just froze, so I'm just going to turn off my camera. So you guys don't have to stare at my frozen face. I agree with you, Tim. And I think that we talked about before, not learning from past mistakes. Like AEW has the opportunity right now to be what WWE or WCW could not be.
Yeah.
And I do think they need writers as an outline. I do think you can have talent that can ad lib. I do think you have talent that can say, no, this is what the dialogue should be. No, here's my ideas. But you need to have a backup. And I feel like Tony Khan's too busy trying to be the cool kid that's offering everybody like the opportunity to be their authentic selves. And he's like, I'm so different. I'm not like WWE. Though I'm
Yeah.
glad they're no longer doing the comparisons they were doing. I got real tired of that shit.
I mean, QTV this week.
I know. Fuck, I hated that so much.
Yeah, somebody in the room
Honestly,
somewhere
painful.
should have said no. That's
Yeah.
the kind of segment where this company needs
Ugh.
somebody to go, no,
Mhm.
we're
I
not
know.
doing that.
Because that's where like the whole kayfabe thing comes in with AEW. Before or after Revolution, Wardlow had made an Instagram story saying how his car got broken into and that the belt was gone, all his gear was gone. Now that makes me wonder, okay, was that real or was that storyline to add? Because then QTV thing happens and you find out they were the ones that broke into the car. So it makes me wonder if they just kind of took a real life thing that happened to Wardlow and then just kind of went with it as a storyline afterwards now. But like doing it with the QTV thing just made me just go,
I don't think anything's real on wrestling. I'm sorry. I never thought that broken in car thing was real. Maybe it's too many years of watching stuff from Stone Cold Steve Austin breaking into Brian Pillman's house and him pretending to shoot him with a gun that I just don't buy anything in wrestling being real. The fact that MJF told that story about a car crash and hundreds of people called the police department is fucking concerning. I'm sorry. Do you think some guy's going to go on national television and be like, oh yeah, I framed a chick for murder? Like, are you completely new? Like, I think that there's some wrestling fans that really need to understand this is a show and nothing's real. And if it is real, like when someone does get really hurt, if you've been watching wrestling long enough, you know when someone's really hurt because they move the camera away. There's a different tone that people use, especially like when Owen Hart fell from the ceiling. Anyone who was watching that, you learned real quick that wasn't planned, right? But I don't know. And I guess it kind of bridges into fan toxicity. I think it's really concerning that we have a female wrestler that doesn't feel comfortable being on Twitter anymore because of what people are saying to her. I think we really need to, evaluate ourselves as fans and understand this is entertainment. Like, this is not like real life.
Yeah, but that shit's been happening since wrestling's been alive. Like, when you look at Shawn Michaels, who was attacked.
Yeah, but you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And like wrestlers, I think it was X-Pac, maybe I'm wrong, who was stabbed. No, Jake the Snake Roberts was stabbed.
Yeah.
You had recently where the fan jumped up and attacked Seth Rollins because he thought that Seth Rollins stole his money.
Yeah.
So like, it's unfortunately not going to stop because people are gullible and there's mental health involved with these things. And
And wrestling fans, I'm going to try to say this nicely. When you go to events, I don't know what it's like in Australia, Tim, but there's people there. I expect children not to be able to separate between reality and fiction. I'm pretty sure there's some grown-ass men that also can't separate between reality and fiction that are at these events too.
Sad but true.
And they sometimes take it to a limit that is questionable for me. Like, get into it, have fun, like, fucking cheer for your guy, boo for your guys, but, like, you shouldn't get that upset when MJF is telling you you're swine and stuff. Like, you should know that's part of the show. It's part of the show. That's his job. You shouldn't be, I don't know. I feel like there was someone that we saw getting really upset when we went to AEW, but maybe I'm just messing it up with another pay-per-view I went to. I don't
remember seeing anybody.
But maybe, it was, I don't know. I think sometimes wrestling fans are just too gullible. I think everything is fake. Nothing is real until I see like something on the news. Then I'm like, oh, okay.
Something that's not on a wrestling news site.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Yes, right. But yeah, I think your story development points were very clear, Tim. Honestly, I think it was good to have a conversation. As great as you are as a solo host, there's no one to bounce stuff off of you. And that
true.
Daniel was good for that, but he didn't watch it enough, so it ended up you just telling him everything that happened and him just making fun of it. Aw.
We love you, Luffy.
Right?
I don't.
Now, I saw some interesting critique about, and I know this wasn't part of our thing, but I think Robin Scott and I talked about it, how Tony Khan needs to stop doing special announcements. And how, like, the last one wasn't it like, I'm really excited to announce there's a TV show. Like, everyone's like, wow.
A reality show. Who cares? Well, and also he did the thing with the belt too.
Yeah,
the special announcement. We're renaming the belt that no one gives a shit about. We're giving it a different name. We're not changing anything about it. We're just giving it a different name. But shut up. Who cares?
Yeah, and then but then to tie it in and go, it's thanks to Shazam that we're making it the international title. Like,
what?
Stop.
What the fuck does that have to do with Shazam? Call it the Shazam title. Who cares? I don't care what the thing's called. I don't care about that belt at all.
Tim's like, why don't you just sham some of these belts and get them out of here so there's not so many belts?
I mean, look, they could have just changed the name to the international title, and I probably would have never even noticed that they did it if they hadn't made a thing about it.
That's true.
There's something that Tim said a couple of months ago, and it stood true. There are too many titles, and that ties into story development. How do you, because every title should have a story. That is something that should have a story. But when you have fucking like a billion titles,
FTW, TBS, TNT, trios, tag team, women's, men's.
Yep.
Am I missing
international?
International. Yep.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the last pay-per-view they had the international champion on in a tag team match, and he didn't even take the belt out of the ring with him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, what are we doing? We don't need this title for anything.
Well, because he wasn't having a match for that belt, though. He was there for that tag.
Yeah, but you see, like Yuta wears his pure belt out to AEW all the time. That's not even part of that company.
I think that might just be character because Orange Cassidy's lazy.
It's possible. I don't know. I don't like the title. It's pointless. I don't understand it. There's too many. To Tim's point about story, I don't need a story weekly. Like for every match on Dynamite doesn't have to have a story behind it. The story can be it's their job, so they fight. That's what they do. I watch boxing matches. I don't expect a story between the boxers. It's their job. They punch each other. Mm-hmm. But what irritates me about story in AEW is they've got 3 months between pay-per-views. I shouldn't be getting to a pay-per-view and having matches just slapped together and thrown on the card for no reason.
Yes, exactly.
Your pay-per-view matches should be a big deal, and they don't all have to have story, but it should be more than a couple that feel like they were just thrown together for the card. There should be mostly stories going on at these pay-per-views when you've got only 4 a year quarterly. It's it's almost like it's just laziness. I mean, we get to some of these pay-per-views, you're a week. Hell, sometimes it's the night before on Rampage. And like, tomorrow night, these two are going to fight. You're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Yeah.
You had 3 months to do something with these two guys to make it something, and they just throw them together too often.
Mm-hmm. And also, not everyone needs to be on a pay-per-view, and that's more directed at WWE. Not nowadays, but back when Vince was more in charge, especially at WrestleMania, they used to just have matches just to have people on the cards. It's like, no.
Well, they did that back in the day. They did that because when it was actual pay-per-views where you had to pay $50 to watch the Royal Rumble or whatever, they wanted to get as many people on as possible because those guys got paid out extra money for those. They got a cut of the amount of pay-per-view buys. So it was a nice way to get a payday for some of the guys. So Vince would try to get as many people on as he could to give them some extra money. Now I don't know how the payouts work for WWE pay-per-views because it's all subscriptions through Peacock and everything else. I don't know if they get any extra money for that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good question.
Yeah, speaking of the titles though, I do want to bring up one thing that they should slim down, especially in AEW, slim down some of the titles, like the FTW title, international title, the TBS championship title. Like, just scrap all those. But what I want, and what should be a thing, is there should be a women's tag team championship belts. Because we don't have that. And that would bring more attention
no,
to
we
the women's
shouldn't.
division.
No, we shouldn't.
I
There
wouldn't.
isn't no world. I'm sorry, Scotty. No.
I wouldn't be
You don't think so?
opposed to the idea if they had women's tag teams, but they don't
yeah.
have.
Like, who are we gonna have tag team with each other? Britt
Yeah.
and Hater beat
It
the
would be
shit
like
out of everybody.
WWE's got women's tag team titles, and they're just throwing random people together to put the belts on them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need stronger talent. But I agree with you getting rid of that championship, though. Like, what does TBS stand for? What the fuck does
TBS
TBS
is a
stand for?
TV station here in
It's
America.
not.
It's the network
it's
they're
a-
on. So is TNT.
Oh,
It's named after the network that they're on.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
The
God.
FTW,
Oh,
though, what's that one?
The what, sorry?
That's Taz's old belt from like ECW or some shit.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what are our thoughts on Hook? Do you guys like Hook? Or do you
I
think
wish
he's
he'd
only
buy
there
a
because
fucking
he's
brush.
Taz's kid? Like, I find it really hard that people are intimidated by this skinny kid. You know, not to body shame here, but like they're like, oh yeah, fucking Hook, and I'm like, oh yeah, he looks angry and fluffy hair, and
I mean,
like
I-
he's got the thing with that guy. What's his name? He's now dressing like he's part of the Black Panthers.
Mm-hmm. Stokely.
Stokely
So-
Athlete.
oh,
Like now they have a match.
yes,
Like-
which has been, that is, I think this is more just the goofy wrestling that AEW likes to add in once in a while, because there has been a build up with that. And like, I guess on Rampage, there was like a 20 minutes, like not 20-minute segment, but a decent length segment of Matt Hardy trying to teach Stokely how to wrestle in the ring. And it's just been, it was apparently really fucking hilarious because Stokely is
Okay.
a wuss. So it's,
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's just more the comedy storyline aspect of that one. But I like Hook as a talent. Unfortunately, he is just going the way of Jade Cargill, though. Just squash match after squash match.
Well, he's not ready. He's not ready for the spotlight that's been shown on him. He's a meme wrestler, right? He got popular and he got over with the crowd by being Taz's son, who showed up in all the segments with Team Taz when that was the thing, and just standing there. He never said anything. He never did anything. He just mean mugged the camera, and it was something that the fans grabbed onto and started making a big deal out of. So he got over basically as being a meme, and now he's wrestling, and I think it's just too soon for him. He's just not ready. He seems like a fine talent, but just young and still developing. So I don't have a problem with him. I think he gets way too much attention for what he is, though. I mean, he's not ready.
Yeah, like
good point.
Honestly, I think something that would have helped more, I mean, not at least in the in-ring stuff, but just kind of helped him more would have been like the Hookhausen thing. Because Danhausen with him was just kind of a fun, goofy combination of the guy that doesn't stop talking with the guy that's always just silent, and the guy that's just kind of being silly where the guy's just stoic and quiet. And it's like a good that could have been like a good combination tag team, because they could use Danhausen more, they could use Hook more, and I think that could have built to something more than just that one match.
Yeah, I'm not sure they really know what they're doing with Danhausen either.
No, like I know, like the main reason they're sticking Danhausen with Orange Cassidy right now is because I know Orange was responsible for getting Danhausen into AEW because they worked a lot on the independent circuit together, and they are really good friends. And so I know that's kind of the reason why they're tied together. And plus, they're both goofy, gimmicky characters.
Yeah,
So
and
it's kind of works
Danhausen,
that way.
Danhausen's great.
Yes.
But they don't know. It's like they only want him there to be a comedy character. They don't give a shit about what he can do in the ring.
He's a
And
jester.
I think it's a disservice to him, because he can actually go. If you go back and watch some of his matches, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's really good.
But yes, I don't think they really know how to book him other than just being the guy who's outside the ring cursing people during the match, and
But, I mean, what would you have done with him?
I don't know. Give him a match. How about that? You know,
Like actually, I think actually build a story with him feuding with somebody, kind of like what they did for the what was it, the All Out 0 Hour, where he was feuding with QT and his guys, and he got super pissed and changed his makeup and came out looking like Pazuzu from Exorcist, and actually like showed his real in-ring talent and kicked ass. Like brought a bit of his old character back. Like
things
do
like
some of
that are good. Would be a better use of him than what they are doing with him now, which is just to be the guy who shows up to curse somebody and make an ass out of himself for the most part. I mean, look, he's not ever going to be the world champion, and that's fine. He doesn't need to be the world champion. But he's a nice undercard guy that they could have they could do more with him, I think, than what they have done.
And he sells merch, so that's like a big reason AEW love, and plus he's really good friends with Tony Khan.
Yeah, but I feel like that shine's going to rub off eventually. Like it's just going to get old.
Yeah.
If they don't find a way to do something more with him. I don't think he'll go away because, like you said, he's good friends with Orange Cassidy. He's good friends with Tony. Hell, he's good friends with CM Punk.
Yeah.
I mean, Punk said that, when he won the title at All Out. when he won the title at All Out, he was wearing Danhausen's boots.
Right.
I mean, so he's got a lot of friends in the company, but I feel like he's got a lot more talent than what they're using him for. I mean, it would have been more interesting had they ditched that RJ City guy on the pre-show for Revolution and just had Danhausen doing that stuff backstage with people.
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah, that 0 hours was kind of boring because of that. There wasn't much there.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I agree. Like they could do some type of story with Danhausen, not make it like anything serious, just some like silly storyline, but to get him in the ring and actually feuding with somebody instead of just being like the Orange Cassidy sidekick.
Yeah, and the guy who's there to take the pin.
Yeah.
All valid points. So as we wrap up, any last thoughts we have? So we did this 6 months ago. 6 months later, Vince McMahon is back. Oh, yay. As we watch the more, I don't know, the 18-hour WrestleMania that we know is going to fucking show up between, because it's Saturday, Sunday, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 2 days.
Yeah.
It's 2 days. So bless Tim's heart. Like, let's give us like a round of applause for Tim, who fucking watches that and then talks about it afterwards. Good for you, dude. That's a fucking investment. I fast forward through the Royal Rumble. That's what I did. I'm like, nah, don't care. Yeah,
well,
okay. Now do I care? Yep, this one. Sorry, go ahead.
You didn't miss a goddamn thing during the Royal Rumble. That was terrible.
No, I was like, wow, this is not fun. Like, I felt like I was in a Saw movie, forcing myself to watch.
Are all four of us going to watch WrestleMania?
Oh, I won't. No.
I'll probably watch the ups and downs thing and like watch some clips.
Sure.
I might go to my buddy Justin's house because he does make an event of doing the pay-per-views, and if I'm available that weekend, I might do at least one of the nights with him.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it. Although I got to be honest, I'm one of the few people who misses the single day or the single night thing. Like and I know people complain about how long it is, but it's like it's 1 day a year. And it's not like you're doing anything. You would make like a big pot of chili and just eat on that all day and just sit on my couch and watch wrestling.
Because it is the wrestling Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just treat it like that.
Yeah, but 2 nights now, it's taken up my entire weekend.
Yeah.
It sucks, so I won't watch any of it.
Yeah, because when it's in Sunday for you guys, it's on Monday for me. So I got to go to work, then come home, deal with the kids, put them to bed, and then I've got 4 hours to watch an 8-hour show.
Yeah,
I have to go back to work the next day.
You just need to buy some cough syrup and knock those bad boys out, Tim. Give them a little drinky and be like, sleepy, 3 p.m. Daddy's got to watch WrestleMania for the next 8 hours. And then he's got a podcast about it. The only thing I'm going to be watching or listening to is Tim talk about WrestleMania. Thank you, Tim, for taking one for the team for me so I don't have to do it. Honestly, no. But what do we think is going to happen in the next 6 months? Do we think the choo-choo train at AEW? Do we think that maybe, they're reaching their peak and they need to, now that they're getting more established, they need to really think about longevity? Thoughts?
I think that they're kind of already thinking that way because, like I say, they seem to be taking a lot of the critiques people have been having about how, with booking. Yeah, it's still iffy with a lot of it, but they seem to be focusing more on, the underutilized talent that they haven't used in, anything besides Dark. And they seem to finally be focusing on the other talent they have, which is one of the biggest complaints a lot of people did have, is they have this huge roster and weren't doing anything with them. And now I think they've finally found a way to start utilizing that, and I hope they continue to do that, making these up-and-comers, giving themselves a name for themselves, making them more along the lines of CM Punk and stuff like that down the road. MJF is obviously already on his way.
So there. A whiner that ruins press conferences?
Come on.
Don't we have enough of those already in wrestling?
You will not see a more entertaining press conference in the next 5 years.
Oh, MJF was pretty entertaining in the last one.
I did love
with his pickles.
Mocking of CM Punk with the pickles. That was fucking
brilliant.
Did you guys?
Good.
What were your guys' thoughts on the little kid that MJF threw tequila on?
Oh,
I
so
thought
good.
that was
That was a bad look.
I laughed.
Yeah, I
'cause
agree.
I laughed because when it happened, I thought it was just water, and
Mhm.
I didn't know it was tequila, so I was just kind of like, "Ha, that's what you
Hang
get
on.
into the
Oh
front
no,
row."
I laughed out loud when it happened because I thought the kid was a plant.
Yeah,
Not a plant.
Yeah, turns out no,
Are we
not
sure
a plant.
it was tequila?
That's what his mom said.
Well, and like they had to meet with her after. Like it
Yeah.
was, I think she may be pursuing legal action that we just
Well,
don't know
Well,
about.
they went out of their way to kiss that kid's ass.
yeah. I say that
Yeah.
kid got to meet all
Brought
the
him
parents
backstage, you know.
Yeah,
I
give
think
him a ton of free shit.
yeah, I think MJF needs to walk a line, and I'll put it that way. I think it's fine what you do with grown-ups when it comes to kids. They don't know the difference between fake and real, and that could have been really upsetting for that kid, right? So, you know, I mean, like maybe Tim throws alcohol at his kids, and they're used to it, but for the rest of us,
I was gonna say,
Right?
like, if it was my kid and MJF did that to my kid, and like my son started crying, I just explained to my son, like, this is part of the show. Don't worry. I'll take my shirt off. You can have that. It's all just part of the show. I understand that. people
oh,
are
that
different,
sounds
take
sexy.
things-
Fuck, I'm gonna throw things on your kid. That means you're gonna strip.
I
Oh, I got on your pants, Tim. Whoops, silly me.
I don't know that I could keep my cool because I don't buy the it's part of the show thing. Like I've
Yeah,
bought
I'm with
tickets to
Rob.
many wrestling shows and I've never expected to have a drink thrown on me or anyone that I'm with. I mean that's just not it's not part of the show.
I got spit in
I
the
mean,
eye
it
by
is, but
a
it's not.
wrestler at a show.
Who?
Yep. It was some random heel. It was like a nobody. It was a WWE SmackDown show back in 2005 maybe 2006, and I was I was aisle side, and some guy was chirping, and the guy went to spit at him, but it hit me instead. It got me right in the eye.
Oh, see, that's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff that I would lose
It was
my
gross.
mind. I would end
I'm
up in
not
the
gonna lie,
hospital.
it was gross.
Like,
I was like, oh.
Yeah, like I'd want to fight
Yeah.
somebody, so I'd end up going to the hospital because clearly they're going to beat my ass.
It made me uncomfortable. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it took a little bit of the enjoyment away from the moment because I was like, fucking yuck, right? So I agree. I'm on your side more, Rob. Tim's just a cooler person. I would be upset if my kid got
Yeah, no.
tequila
I mean,
thrown on him. I don't think that's okay.
No, I was saying,
I'm-
I
there's
don't
a lot.
think it's. Yeah, once I found out it was tequila, I was just like, oh boy. But I think I would have been like, I probably would have not pursued shit like that lady did.
I would
I
have.
probably would have just talked to myself.
I would have Karen that up.
I don't know how much I don't know how much she pursued it. I think they sent, from what I understand, they sent immediately Amanda Huber, who's Brody's widow and does their community outreach stuff. They sent her out to talk to him, and she found out the boy was upset. Some of the people who were sitting around them gave the kid some of the souvenirs they had already bought.
Oh wow!
To try to make him happy, and then he got a signed turnbuckle that was signed by a bunch of people, and they took him backstage, and he got to meet a bunch of his favorite wrestlers back there, all to try and calm him down. I don't think the mom was really throwing a fit and yelling, "You give me this, you give me that." I think they were trying to smooth it over. They're trying not to get sued.
Okay, I misunderstood what was going on during that. Then, like, I misread something.
Yeah, I mean, look, that again, though, is just my impression. I don't know. Maybe that is what happened. I wasn't there. What the fuck do I know?
I think the mum's a bad parent because she's drinking fucking a glass full of tequila.
Well, I don't think it was a glass full of tequila.
You've never drank in front of your kids, Tim?
Not a fucking straight full glass of tequila.
You're like, I at least fucking mix it with orange juice.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say I do that shit all the time. I take my kid to wrestling events and stuff, and I'm like, "You stand here, Dad's going to the bar. I'll be right back."
But your son's also 16 years old, Rob.
He's
like
15.
That's well.
Yeah. But even
you
when
know what I mean.
Even
right?
when he was younger, I'd be like, "Just stand right here, Daddy. I'll be right back. I gotta go get a beer."
My parents drank too at wrestling events when my dad would take me. Absolutely. I don't know. I do think there's a line. I really do. I think, the same thing with me with a wrestler. If I'm at a convention, sure, I'm going to walk up to them. But if I walk into a restaurant and I see Chris Jericho eating with his family, I'm not going to go over be like, oh my God, Chris Jericho, oh my God. Like, I'm not going to do that, Like, I'm going to have respect that he's with his family. He's not on the clock right now. His job isn't to entertain me. And I think there should be a mutual respect. Yeah, you met him at a club, didn't you? Isn't it like a...
Well, that Jericho story is a different story. But one time I was having drinks at Hard Rock Cafe here in Sydney, and Bobby Roode, who was the TNA champion at the time, came in, and he wasn't with family. I think he was with friends, and he was eating, and I stared at him, and he waved, but it kind of then kind of gave me the motion of let me eat first, and I'll come say hi. So I respected that, and then I went back, had a few more drinks, came back to go find him, and he was gone. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, he waved at me, he could tell that I was a fan, and yeah.
There's a time to approach somebody and a time not to. When they're eating is never the time to approach anyone.
Exactly.
With Jericho, I don't think I would approach him. I would stand across the room and just go, Fozzy sucks. Fozzy sucks.
Jericho is a really cool, down-to-earth guy, too.
Yeah, and I think us four would have more to say with him just because of him being such a huge horror fan as well.
Yeah.
No, he does seem like a pretty good guy. I mean, I've seen him on. He was on the last drive-in with Joe Bob Briggs and stuff, and I don't really hate Fozzy that much. I've seen them; they're fine.
Any wrestler, right? Like I would love to see Adam Cole and just be like, baby, right? Like I would love to do something like that, but I wouldn't. I don't know. I still think you need boundaries, and I think wrestlers should have boundaries too. I appreciate that MJF is a heel. I get that, and I get that he embodies it and he lives it. And the whole him with his fiance breaking up, whether that's true or not, or she just got tired of being harassed, maybe, who knows? You still have to walk a line. Yeah. You still have to walk a line, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
like the story. It's like the story that came out recently about Rey Mysterio being bombarded with people at the airport asking him to sign multiple things. It's like, and then people were throwing shade at Rey Mysterio, saying, "Oh, he doesn't appreciate his fans." It's like, no, you guys are asking him to sign 20 things when he's just had a massive flight. He's probably exhausted.
Right.
Just wants to go back to his hotel and sleep.
Like I just experienced going to an airport for my first time, and I was fucking beat. I just wanted to go home.
And so many people were waiting for him to sign shit because it was fucking Smoke Show.
Yeah, they're like, oh, smoke show. And what, guys? Yeah, guys, can't do it.
No, I think it was the Young Bucks who talked about this. Like, they won't sign stuff for people who've clearly been camped out at the airport waiting for them, or camp out at the hotel waiting for them to show up. They just walk past those people. And they're not, it's not even like they're jerks, because they will stop and take pictures with people that if they're just out and people come up to them and approach them, they're usually pretty good about that. But, there's a difference. There's a big difference between Tim being out and just drinking and doing his normal thing and running into Bobby Roode and wanting to say hello than some, guy who's got a bag full of action figures that he wants to get signed and sitting at, sleeping on the bench outside the hotel when they show up, Well,
and it's demanding access, right? I serve access to you because I'm a fan. Well, you don't. There's movies about that, and it makes you look creepy and weird. So, anything else, like Tim or Rob, you want to add about where you see wrestling going? I just hope Vince McMahon doesn't start booking everything, because WWE will get worse.
I think sadly that's where this whole thing is headed. I see Vince. From my understanding was, with the whole Omos Brock Lesnar thing, that was Vince's idea, and he didn't push it. Apparently he didn't push it, but I guess the original plan was for Brock and Bray at WrestleMania, and Brock said no. And so that's why they did the thing in the match with him and Lashley where Brock got himself disqualified. And so then it was kind of like, well, Vince suggested this, we don't have anything else planned for Brock now, so we'll just do that match. I think slowly but surely you're going to start to see him doing things like that. He's there to negotiate a sale of WWE. I don't think he sells this company to anyone who's not going to put him back in charge of creative.
Okay, can I ask what the big deal is with Brock?
I like Brock.
Why does he get to decide who he faces? Like, who the fuck?
Yeah,
is
because
this
he's
large? I don't know. He never impressed me.
He's a name. He's a name. Everyone knows him. Like, compared to like Roman Reigns, everyone knows who Brock Lesnar is because of his UFC career and everything like that. He's the highest paid wrestler for a reason.
Yeah.
Is he? Doesn't he hurt a lot of people? Doesn't he?
I think he's gotten a little bit better about that. I think he works a little more carefully now. But yeah, I mean, he demands a lot. Like, it was a few years ago when Seth Rollins beat him for the championship at WrestleMania. They opened the show with that match, and it was because Brock, they weren't going to close the show, and Brock said, "If I'm not going on last, I want to go on first." And it was simply so he could do the match, lose,
And go.
get on the plane, and go home. He was back home in fucking Canada, wherever he lives, before the show was even over.
Oh my God, he lives in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, I hope I never run into him.
I don't.
No.
He probably
Maybe,
lives out in
I don't know.
fucking butt-fuck nowhere, Fort McMurray, Alberta, with the lumberjacks.
I don't know what that means.
I think
he lives. He does live in the middle of nowhere. He's got like some god awful amount of land.
Now I want to find out where he lives.
Yeah, I
Saskatchewan.
don't know.
Yeah, he's in
Saskatchewan.
I
Oh,
just told
fuck.
you Canada. I don't know.
Okay, I swear to God, Rob, honestly. You make the American stereotype come true every single time we talk.
He lives where it's cold up there.
Oh, you fucker.
Is it snowing
yeah.
where you are, Heather?
Actually, it is. It makes sense. It's March. It's also snowing where Scott is, too. So, yeah.
Well, it's not snowing today, but usually it was earlier.
It was. Bottom line, if it was. Oh, man. He lives
It's
in
53 where I'm at right now.
That's because you live in the South.
I know.
Don't you have to, go to a Trump rally later when we get off this call?
No, that's tomorrow.
Okay. So yeah, we all know Vince is probably going to come back, and they're going to put him in charge, and he's going to, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he forced his way back in so he could negotiate the sale, and I think the only reason that he did that was so he could find somebody. I would guess that the Saudis are still, the leaders in that clubhouse for a sale, and so he can be back in charge, and we'll be right back to where we were.
Sad but true.
Here we go. Well, Tim, what about you? Any big thoughts?
I agree with the WWE side of things. I don't see. Well, there was a report that came out recently that Triple H, Paul Levesque himself, said that he plans on fixing all of Vince McMahon's mistakes by SummerSlam this year. And I mean, he has fixed things. He has. But I still think that it's not going to be the product that I once knew and loved. So with AEW, I'll put money on this. I think CM Punk returns this year.
Same.
Well, they've never taken him off the website, so that's a pretty good.
And he's in the video game too. So
yeah, his as far. I mean, he's still under contract with the company. I've never heard anything other than that. I know at one point there was a lot of rumors that they were negotiating a buyout, but that never came to be, as far as I know. So
yeah, he's still part of it, and I think they're just giving him time to fully heal, kind of take the heat off of what happened, because that could have been real. All that happened. Now they're just letting him heal or whatever. Who knows? But I think they're just going to take time, let him recuperate, get back to full health, and then bring him back as a surprise during one of the pay-per-views.
He's going to get booed like a motherfucker.
Oh, he is.
The crowd is. I think that whatever was going on between him and the Elite is the sort of thing that you have with like coworkers or friends or whatever that could. Or like Tim and I. This injury may have been the best thing for this entire situation because he could just be away. He would have been away no matter what anyway. Right. So that I think has had time to sort of maybe die down a bit. But the wrestling fans are never going to forget this. For God's sake, no, don't forget anything.
I would love to see. I would love to see like the Elite and CM Punk come to an agreement that hey, we clearly don't like each other, but we'll work with each other and have this whole real rivalry shown on screen. Have Kenny versus CM Punk. Have the back and forth. I reckon that would be fucking money right there.
Oh yeah,
if they could do it. But I honestly think that they'll keep them apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say I could see that. Like, who knows exactly, but yeah, like I've been saying it pretty much like for the last couple of months now. That I'm like, yeah, I expect CM Punk back anytime now. Like, yeah, like it's just.
Well, isn't the next pay-per-view in Chicago?
No, that one's in Vegas.
Vegas, Double or Nothing.
And then Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Forbidden Door.
Yep, and then Canada, and then Chicago if they keep it there, which I don't see why they wouldn't.
Fuck Chicago.
So Chicago at the end, the last pay-per-view of the year.
Yeah, I think it's all. Yeah, well, not the last one, but All Out.
All Out will be
second to last.
It has always been in Chicago. There was talks though that the last time they did it in Chicago that they were looking at maybe moving it. I don't know if they will or not.
I mean, I would love to see a pay-per-view event come to Detroit. That would be amazing because they did have a huge crowd.
Yeah, they could handle it.
But nobody wants to go to Detroit.
Honestly, it wasn't that bad. I was prepared to die, but I didn't, and it was really nice.
Yeah, the only way we were prepared to die is when we were on the expressway.
Yeah, Scott pulled some Fast and Furious shit while we were on that expressway. It was pretty impressive, actually. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. And then like I had to get carded and almost not be allowed to buy beer or cider. That was a weird night. Yeah, no, it was weird. But the event was fabulous. And I think the arena is big enough and it sold out, didn't it, Scotty?
Mm-hmm.
It sold out when we went.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully they make it to Australia. Hopefully poor Tim over there.
If they do go back to Chicago for All Out, I hope they do it at the United Center finally, because that arena is ridiculous. I mean, it's 45 minutes outside the city, near nothing.
Oh, that's not good.
And
that's not good.
Yeah, it's small. I don't, they need to move it to the United Center. It'd be nice if they'd come back here where I live now. They apparently did the third Dynamite ever here, and that's the only time they've ever been to town.
Oh,
aww.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you were a real fan, they would come back, and maybe you just need to try harder.
I was used to them running Indianapolis once a year, and now nothing.
Yeah, you went to a lot of events actually, Rob. I think you went to at least 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5. I think I went to 3 Dynamites and then 2 All Outs. Yeah.
You're a veteran of AEW.
But they don't come here, so, and I'm not going to Chicago from here. It's too far.
It's a long drive, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. Wrestling is still keeping it fresh. We're still enjoying it enough. We'll see what the next 6 months bring. Maybe we'll meet after I go to my event. Hopefully I get tickets, because last time they sold out in fucking 2 minutes in Toronto. So hopefully I'll be able to get in to see them in Hamilton, and I can brag about my show to Tim, who doesn't get to go watch them, which will just make our rivalry even worse, won't it, Tim?
Yeah. Thanks for rubbing it in, bitch.
Right? that bitch. I wonder if people, sometimes I listen to your show and I'm like, I wonder if people actually think I'm a mean person now. Like, I'm actually not. I'm not a Karen. I will eat burnt steaks at restaurants and not complain. And I'm like, I wonder if Tim's made it that I'll never get
home
dick.
on Twitter, bitch about it.
No, never. I'm classy. I'm classy, Tim. But if you affect my ability to get dick, we're going to have a problem, okay? Mark my word.
You can just
If
have
this
mine.
bitch thing gets out, I would take it, but you live all the way in Australia. And then, I don't know, you got your beautiful wife. I can't compete with that. I can't compete with her. She's pretty awesome. And a better podcaster.
She needs to learn that sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. I'm sure that would go over real well. So we'll promo our shows, and we'll be back again. I think this is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work to get it arranged just because of the time zones and stuff. But I always enjoy the conversation, and I always learn something. And I hope you guys enjoy it too. We got really good feedback from our last episode, and we hope you guys enjoy this. So why don't we just start with Rob? Rob, why don't you tell us where the listeners can find you?
You can listen to Slasher Radio, a weekly podcast where we talk about a horror movie every week. Right now, we're in the midst of our Murder Madness tournament that we do every year, and it coincides with the NCAA tournament. It is 64 entries into the tournament, and we crown one winner.
Nice.
We just wrapped up the first round of that, and we are doing remakes versus originals this year.
Nice.
Cool.
So I've got that going on. Possibly this Horror Life at some point. That show's on a hiatus right now. I don't know when we're going to be back.
You guys are the CM Punk. It's the CM Punk show. You're going to come back one day, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah.
Remakes. Tim might need you for his Patreon. Poor guy doesn't have anyone that watches enough remakes for him to do that fucking show. Maybe he should have us on. Speaking of Tim, I guess you better promo all your stuff.
Well, if you haven't heard my name, it's often mentioned from the Friday Nightmares podcast a lot because Heather cannot keep my name out of her mouth.
I was going to say
now. Other things I can't keep out of my mouth, huh, Tim? High five, high five.
Just like how you need to watch AEW, Ring of Honor, and Dynamite, Ring of Honor, and Rampage to the storyline, you need to listen to the Friday Nightmares and the Dummies of Horror to get the storyline feud.
You do actually, legit. And then occasionally I make fun of Rob as well, so... but I don't think Rob trashes us. He's much more classy than we are.
Yeah, Rob's the only one that doesn't trash us. Poor Rob. We give Rob a lot of shit. I'm sorry, Rob.
He's ignoring us.
Damn it, I'm muted. Occasionally you'll come up on the show, but not that often. I try not to trash you guys. I have sent Tim messages during the show before, like asking if Australians say oi or whatever.
Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah.
It's his favorite.
You'll bring me up every time you mention Happy Death Day.
Yes. Happy
Best
Death
movie
Day.
ever.
Yeah, that always gets a mention from.
And now I'll probably get brought up for #float.
Yeah, but I don't think #float's going to get brought up very often.
Hopefully not.
So yeah, you can catch me on the Dummies of Horror podcast, where we at the moment we're basically changed our whole format where we stopped doing movie reviews and we're doing verses. So we put anything horror against anything horror and make them fight because it's fun. And yeah, our latest episode just came out where we talk about the biggest bitch in horror, which was inspired by someone close to me. And
Scotty.
Yeah. I'm everybody's bitch.
Mhm.
And my other show, which coincides with this show, which is called Dummies of Wrestling, where I bullshit and bitch about wrestling and tell you my opinions on how lame the product is at times. So
And I
you
get
can check-
mad. I listen to him and I'm like, what the fuck, Jim? I get all revved up and then I forget about it. I get so mad in the moment and then time goes on and I'm like,
I really like the new format of Dummies of Horror, Tim.
Yeah, me
So do
too.
I.
It's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's really cool. It is nice to hear something different. There are a lot of movie review podcasts, so it's nice when somebody takes a different angle at it.
Well, I was kind of inspired by both of your shows, Friday Nightmares and This Horror
Well, you
Life.
should be. They're superior, so that should be
Yeah, you are. Because I got sick of just reviewing movies. I'm like, I'm not good at this. There's so many other podcasts that are so much better that review movies than me. So let's have fun. So now we fight.
It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed your last bitch episode, and the moment I saw the title, I was like, I know what he's gonna say. So please check out, and also you're on Patreon. Did you plug your Patreon?
I feel guilty plugging Patreon.
Why?
But
Why?
No,
because
plug it.
it's like me saying, "Oh, give us money." But no, we have a Patreon page. We have different tiers that you can join up for that have different rewards. We've got so much bonus shit on there. We do bracket episodes. We do top 10 episodes. I just recorded my first episode with my 9-year-old daughter, which is called Daddy-Daughter Deathmatch, where I show her horror movies for the first time, and she tells you what she thinks.
Was
And,
it a
our
Serbian
first-
film?
Yeah, no, it was 120 Days of Sodom. He was like,
Jeez.
what scene did you really get into the shit eating that you felt like it was?
Manja.
She's like, Daddy, I don't
Maybe I
understand why I can't watch titties, but I can watch this. My favorite is when you talked with your daughter and she told you that she didn't like something. You're like, that's interesting. I'm like, he's even interested in his kid. Because when Tim doesn't agree with you, he'll say, that's interesting. What that means is, you know what the fuck you're talking about. I've learned that because he'll be like, Heather, that's an interesting viewpoint. Right? Am I right now? Is that what you mean by it's interesting?
You've read me like a book.
But your daughter's great. All joking aside, she's very lovely and very well spoken for a 9-year-old young lady. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're on Patreon, look out for that coming out this week. So
And can we mention that your smoking hot wife is on episodes, and it's great because she shows you how to podcast. It's really nice.
does
because
she?
she keeps you in check too. There was one point where you made a really inappropriate comment. She's like, "Enough, Tim. Enough. Too far." And then like she went on to something else, and I'm like, "Yes, Jill. That's how you fucking handle that shit." Like a boss. That's right, girl. And you didn't mention our Lord and Savior Zachary Davis, who is currently
I got
Dummies
an
of Horror or Dummies of Horror.
his
Like
his
six
fucking
is almost as much as I do.
his
Like,
fucking,
take a lie.
his fucking
he's-
championship belt. My God.
I know.
Oh, it's stupid. It's stupid. He's the champion, but he doesn't like he watches highlights on YouTube. That's all he does. AEW and WWE. He doesn't actually watch the program. And I swear to God, he fucking wins every time on sheer luck.
Well, WWE I can see because it's so predictable. But
Yeah, well,
AEW is a bit different.
Yeah.
You
We'll
make it
find out.
hard though. Your card's like, okay, who's gonna come out with the runny nose? Who's gonna who's gonna trip on their shoelaces first? I'm like, I don't know. Who has shoelaces? And I'm panicking and I don't know what to do. So your cards are tough, Tim. Like you don't make it easy peasy. You make it like hard.
If you just
Oh, he
put
makes it
who,
hard
who
already.
wins.
Oh, true fucking does. Yeah, he does.
I got a raging
If you
Scott
just put
Crawford
who
right
wins. Oh,
Yeah, but-
show me, Daddy.
now.
Like why, like I'm the only one that's a patron out of the two of us, right? Like you trash me and I support you more than he does. The only reason this show's happening is because of me. You realize that,
Yeah.
right?
But Heather, it's because I don't argue with Tim.
He just lets it happen.
Yeah. I just take it.
Trust me, Tim, I let it happen too. Let me make something clear. I let it happen as well. That's still the complete same. Hopefully you've sat with us to the end. Thank you if you have, listening to this mayhem.
I can't imagine why.
No, I can't imagine. Probably because Rob's here and he's a big celebrity that interviews people like 5 Cream. Have you interviewed them again for 6 Cream?
No, we did not set up that interview, and I'm kind of glad we didn't, because my feelings on 6 Cream were not positive.
Worse than 5 Cream?
Oh, way worse than 5 Cream.
Oh, dear.
Way worse than 5 Cream.
Oh, dear. Well, if you want to hear more of that, is that on Slasher Radio? Is that on the Slasher Radio?
Slasher Radio does that. And then that's a specialty of the Mikey, my co-host, books all the guests for the show. And he really specializes in finding people who have been in movies that I have just trashed. He really finds that to be super fun for him. So I'm a little surprised that he didn't get the 5 Cream guys back, but we had them on last year, not this year.
Yeah, everyone should check that out. It's a great podcast. Great podcast here. And for some reason, if you're really desperate, you can listen to Friday Nightmares, which is available on the Legion Podcast Network. And we do have Patreon, much like Tim, much like Rob, because Rob's has Slasher Radio Patreon, correct, Rob?
Yep, we do. We do a show each week for Patreon that is usually anywhere from a half hour to an hour long, depending on what it is. It's not always horror related. We play different games. Sometimes we play a game called Prison Love with Rob.
I saw that. I saw that.
We have a love and sex advice show called Sexy Time with Rob.
How do you do that with being a virgin?
I have a child. There's proof that I've had sex exactly one time.
You could have adopted.
Yeah, you could have.
And but anyway, there's various shows like that. Sometimes we'll do like trivia games or whatever. They're not always horror related. Sometimes they are. It's kind of just us fucking around and goofing off for a little bit.
Nice. Hey, fucking around sounds great. Speaking of that, Tim, you also have the Patreon where you fuck around on, and I'm looking for those nudes to come one day, baby. I'll up my Patreon pledge if you guys get some nudes on there of you and Daniel. Like,
you're talking about our OnlyFans?
Oh, I would subscribe to your OnlyFans. 110%. I would. I absolutely would.
Heather,
yeah, of course I would.
This is why he's nicer to me, because I've already subscribed to their OnlyFans.
No, you haven't. It doesn't even exist. Stop pretending. Anyway, we're also on the Patreon network for the Legion Podcast Network. It's $3 a month. You get access to lots of shows and extra special codes. And if you haven't joined either the Dummies of Horror, Slasher Radio, Legion Patreon yet, Scott, it's one question for you.
Listen here, brother. Just got one question for you. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Please join and keep us all going. And we will be back again for another, I don't know, I guess we could say one night stand, but I guess this is more or less becoming friends with benefits.
It's turned into a relationship, isn't it?
I know. Rob, it's going to be the oldest woman you've ever been with. Are you excited?
All of you are too old for me.
I know. My poor hips. You and I are going to be. My neck's going to be sore. Your hips going to be going out. It's going to be great.
Throwing my back out left and right.
The only one that's not injured is Tim. Man, Tim's going to have to do all the pushing. So thank you for joining, as always. And we'll catch you next time. We'll be back with more horror and good times there. And until then, see you on the flip side.
See ya.
Boy.
If you're some man, what the rock is cooking.
And what you gonna do, Macho Man, when the whole world full of Hulkamaniacs destroy you? Because everyone loves the acclaim! Now scissor me, daddy! Oh, there it is!
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Rise to the top, oh yeah.